Welcome to another BrewCon London Brew Talk. BrewCon London is the UK's largest homebrew expo and convention. The BrewCon Brew Talk videos are sponsored by the Malt Miller.
Let's do this then. A nice quiet one, which is good, because I honestly didn't expect there'd be that many people who would daft enough to want to run a homebrew competition. I'm not going to bother introducing myself because that would be daft. So this is me. I'm a YouTuber. I run the Welsh National. I know a little bit about running a homebrew competition. I keep getting told it's one of the better organised ones, so hopefully I'll give you some idea about the things to think about and consider before running one, and the lessons I've learned along the way, which I wouldn't have started if I had known about. So, first up, quick run through of the history of the Welsh. 2014, I stewarded the UK National and kind of got a bug for competitions and judging and homebrew and all that. Went back in 2015, at which time I sat my BJCP. I was a qualified judge and judged at the UK National. At that time, me and a fellow homebrewer from South Wales, Nick Swan, started talking about it and saying, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we had something like this in Wales? Wouldn't it be great if we had feedback within 6 months? And also, wouldn't it be great to be able to gain judging experience in our local area? So we decided we're going to start a homebrew competition. We didn't know much about it. We learned some lessons. In 2016, we did the first Welsh. We set a 150 entry limit. We got that limit the first year. Second year we ran, we kept it at 150. We were comfortable with that. We knew we could get that done. 2018, we upped it to 300. And again, this year, we kept it at 300 again. That's an awful lot of beer to judge in a small area when you haven't got a big group of judges like there is in London. 2020, what are we going to do? I think the limit's going to be 400, and I think we will stop at that. That will be plenty. The reason I say that is I've talked to the organisers here. They're like, no, next year we're going to cap it at 400. If they don't want to go above that, with all the judges you've got around here, I don't want to go above that. But that's the first thing to think about. Size really does matter. We hear it talked about in other contexts, but in the case of a homebrew competition, it really does. It's going to impact everything you do. Basically, if you've got less than 10 entries, you're talking about a homebrew club meeting. Just all get together with a beer, sit around and go, yeah, we all think this one's the best. Anyone can do it, and I suggest everyone does. It's a great way to get experience at running a competition without any risk at all. Next up, you've got the small shop or a small local competition, might be run by a club, a brewery, just accepting some more competition entries in, getting it judged. This is the sort of thing you can do with minimal preparation. You obviously need a venue, you need a few judges to come along and do it, you need somewhere to collect your entries. Once you get above 30, you're actually running a proper local competition. This is the sort of thing that you might see at your county fairs and that sort of thing. Once you get up above 100, you're talking a big regional scale, and things are starting to get really complex now. 100 entries is at least 200 bottles of beer you've got to manage. Once you get above 200 in UK numbers, you're talking more or less, you're up there with the national competitions, the big fours. You've got the UK National, the Welsh, the Lab Open, and BrewCon. Once you get above 200, you're at that sort of level. Just to put it into perspective, compared to the US, that's a very different kettle of fish. The current US had over 3,000 entries in the first round. And basically, when you get to that level, you're not talking about one homebrew competition. You're talking 6 different homebrew competitions with the final at the end of it in a 7th city. It's an awful lot of beer, but they've got an awful lot of judges to get through it. Next thing to think about is the feedback that you're going to give people, because that's going to define how many judges you need and how much organisation it's going to take. So for instance, you might enter, say, the Thornbridge competition, where all you do is get told you're first, you're second, you're third. That is the sum total of the feedback you might get. You might enter a local county show where it's done under guild guidelines, where you just get a single sentence written on a sticker on the back of your bottle. You might do a BJCP style, where you get a full A4 sheet of feedback. Now, that's great from a homebrewing perspective, because it tells you how to improve your beer, which is why I got into doing this in the first place. I want to help people make better beer. So for me, it was no good not giving any feedback. It was no good giving minimal feedback. And it was no good giving feedback 6 months after the competition, where they'd already finished all their beer, or it had changed so much they couldn't compare the feedback to the beer they were drinking. Things to bear in mind: the more feedback you give, it's a lot slower to judge. Now, in a BJCP exam, you're allowed 15 minutes of beer, and that's to fill in an A4 sheet. What I find, though, is that a lot of the times it can take a BJCP judge anything up to half an hour to do a beer sometimes. And if that's happening, it takes a long time to get through hundreds of beers. You've also got to look at, there's a lot more paperwork you've got to manage. You're producing all these sheets of paper, you've then got to scan them in, get them back to people after. So straight away, the more feedback you give, the more logistics involved. Managing your competition, how are you going to do it? Well, at the small scale, club meeting level, you don't need anything. By the time you get to the small local shop or brewery competition, you can probably do it with just a pen and paper. Anything bigger than that, you're going to get more complex. You're going to need something, at least a spreadsheet. Once you get to a regional level and you're accepting entries via the post, and it's not just all turning up on the day with people bringing it, you need a way for them to register, to enter, know to where to ship beers, how to manage them. We couldn't have managed the 100 entry competition alone without some bit of software. The one that nearly every competition in the UK uses is Brew Competition Online and Entry Management System, which looks like that. It's what they use here, it's what we use at the Welsh, it's what they use for the UK National. There are other systems out there. Some of them are better than others. There's a system called Reggie, who regularly spams anyone who ever registers a competition, saying, please use our software. There's Homebrew Competition, HCCP it's called. You can find those on the competition centre on the BJCP site. There are other systems that no one's really using, and that's normally for a reason. Find a venue. This was this year's Welsh at Tiny Rebel. The reason the venue is important is it controls a lot of what you can do. If you've got a good venue, it can save you a lot in costs. If you've got to hire in all your tables and chairs, for instance, that can cost you hundreds. If you've got to actually pay to hire a venue, be it a community centre, or pay towards the cost of a tap room, as they have done with the UK National, straight away you're adding to your costs. So you've got to think about the capacity that you can fit in the venue for a start. If you've got to have 40 judges to get through your beers, can you sit 40 judges in the room? Have they got enough elbow room to be judging beer? Do you need insurance for that venue? Now, a lot of times if you're in a community centre and there's alcohol involved, they will turn around and require you to have some form of insurance. If you're in a licensed venue, they don't give a damn. So that's something to bear in mind. As we mentioned, tables and chairs. I know that some of the lab competitions, they have to get them in. Tiny Rebel, they literally strip all the tables out the staff canteen for us, get some in out the restaurant, don't charge us a penny. Storing the beer. If you're at a club meeting, it doesn't matter, everyone just brings it along. If you're doing something like a national competition where you've got hundreds or thousands of bottles of beer, where are you going to keep it? It takes an awful lot of space to do that, a lot more than you'll think. Are you going to keep it cold? Are you going to keep it at ambient temperatures? This time of year, if you keep it at ambient temperatures, frankly, it's too cold. In the summer, if you just keep it at ambient temperatures, it's far too warm. Tiny Rebel are great for us. They've got a big cold store at the back, which is at cellar temperatures. All the beer's stored there for us. We drop it off twice on 2 occasions before the competition. What time can you get into your venue? It's one that's often overlooked. If you've got to get 2 or 3 judging sessions in during the day, you need to be able to get in and get set up and get ready before 9 o'clock in the morning when most things actually open. We did that the first year in the brewery bar in Cardiff, again the Tiny Rebel one, and they're like, yeah, you'll have to wait until 9 o'clock for someone to come and unlock it. And then straight away it put us a little bit behind all day then because we were rushing to try and catch up because we couldn't get in to set up before 9. And food and drink for your judges. You're asking these people to judge 10, 20, 30 beers during the day. Frankly, no one can drink beer all day without something to eat, and probably something soft to drink at lunchtime as well. So can you get decent, refreshing food and drink for your judges in that venue? Some places are quite happy for you to bring it in, some places you have to buy it from them. With Tiny Rebel, who we always host with, we just buy the food for the judge from them. For that, they let us have the venue for absolutely nothing. They're just fabulous for us. It's the best we could have ever hoped for. And then public access. If you're going to do an award ceremony where the public can join, are they able to get there? Can they get in? Are they allowed in? If you're actually in a production brewery, they might not allow the general public in. There might be requirements for health and safety, protective equipment and all that. We're lucky, most breweries nowadays run brewery tours and that sort of thing, where they do allow the public into the area. As you'll notice in that picture, not one of us is wearing any safety gear, which is quite ironic because later in the day they bring brewery tours through and they're all in high-vis jackets and all that sort of thing, wondering why we don't have to wear it but they have to dress up like these funny people. Work out where it's going to sit on the calendar. If you're just doing a little club one, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to get a bit bigger, try and think about where on the calendar are we? What other competitions are there so that people can enter beer in more than one? Or they can brew for one, get feedback, and then enter another. So it's good to keep them spaced out. Currently the big ones in the UK are the UK National in February. May, there's the Lab. September now is the Welsh. And November, World Series. So just try and keep it somewhere in there where you're looking at it and thinking, well, you can brew one batch and enter those 2, or you can enter that one, get feedback, and then rebrew it for hours. Costs. This is probably the most awkward one. We've already just had a talk about running a homebrew club, and in that case, there shouldn't be any costs. You're already there for the club meeting, it's just about sampling beer. As soon as you start getting bigger, there's normally some costs involved, whether it's posting out results or medals or whatever, paying for food, paying for judges or whatever. So the things to think about what it's going to cost is your venue. For a lot of competitions, this can be the biggest expense. Whether you need insurance, tables and chairs, food and drink, that's the biggest one for the Welsh. Glasses, cups, cloths, they all cost money. If you're just using plastic cups, you can get them cheap from the cash and carry. If you're buying in ISO tasting glasses, you can expect it to cost a fair bit. Paper printing and toner. If you're printing out 1,500 score sheets, because the judges always spoil some, you need spare. 1,500 score sheets is a lot of paper, it's a lot of printing, it's a lot of toner. Again, it adds up and it's one of those costs no one thinks about. The website hosting, if you have a website, depending who you talk to, that can be anything from free up to 80 odd quid, which again has to come out of your entry fees or someone's pocket. Medals, trophies and rosettes, are you bothering with them? If you are, who's paying for them? What's it going to cost you? Prizes. We've got a great community of commercial companies in the UK who are quite happy to help out homebrew competitions. They're quite happy to supply prizes. But sometimes you might have to buy a couple of extra prizes or put some money towards a prize. It's another cost that you have to consider. And all the general stationery, did you want any printing done, flyers for your competition to put up in shops or whatever? Pencils is the other one, because we always use mechanical pencils instead of wooden ones. First year costs for the Welsh, it was 800 quid. Well, it was 844. I was determined when we said we were going to run the Welsh that we were going to do it better than other competitions I've been to. I wanted to make sure the judges had the best experience, the entrants had the best experience. So we went out, we bought ISO tasting glasses, 5 trays of those. That was a big expense. Buying enough medals for the first 2 years of competition, things like that. In total, we ended up, first year's expense was £844, and in total we took in £855. We had £11 left in the kitty after that first year, which bought a beer for me and Nick. And believe me, after that first year, we needed it. So logistics. You need to be managing all your entrants, their entries, their entry fees. Again, I recommend the BCOE&M, brewcompetition.com for this, because it just does everything for you. Otherwise, you have to come up with your own system to do it. Getting the word out, finding entrants, advertising, social media, how are you going to get people to enter your competition? If it's a club meeting one, that's fine. Everyone knows what to expect when they come to the club. If you're trying to start up a new national or regional competition, you're going to need to get the word out. The Welsh, we did it all on social media. We didn't pay for advertising, we didn't do any, and it worked for us, simply because I'm very active on social media, so I could just handle that. This is the biggest time sink of the lot when you get to scale. Receiving, unboxing, transporting, relabeling if you use the old labelling system where you give someone an entry number, they send the beer in, you pull the entry number off, you stick on a judging number. That is a time sink that we don't do anymore at the Welsh, but some competitions still do. And storing those hundreds of bottles. My garage was a nightmare whilst I was trying to set this up for 2 weeks. Finding, organising, seating and feeding enough judges and stewards. So that first year we had 25 people, that was judges and stewards. And we had to source them from the local area, bring them in from Bristol. Because at that time, that first year we ran it, there weren't any other BJCP judges in Wales. And the reason I introduced the competition was to encourage people to start becoming a BJCP judge. And for that, it worked brilliantly, because off the back of that, I was able to run a judge training course, and everyone who actually went all the way through the course passed that. So now we've got more judges in Wales. And then you've got to worry about managing, stewarding and judging all those beers. If you've got 1,000 bottles in a cold store out the back to get in front of judges, how are you going to do that? Have you got enough people going back, pulling the bottles, bringing them out for the judges? It's a lot of beer to juggle. And then cleaning up after it finishes. If you've got there 13 beers that went through to best of show, you know that out the back there's another 870 bottles and half bottles that need to be emptied and recycled. And then the work really starts. Scanning in all that feedback, sorting it and getting out to people, because without that feedback there is no competition. Or as Chris said just now, if you're not giving feedback, you're just drinking beer. My biggest suggestion, if you're going to do this, is get help. Yeah, both contexts. Probably get some mental help because it's a lot to take on. But get help with people who can do things for you. The roles that we've used before are treasurers. So Nick's our treasurer. He worries about have we had the PayPal payment, is that in the account, giving out money to pay bills, that sort of thing. Who's going to look after your social media, if you're going to do any? Because a national level for a competition, if you're not doing any social media, people just don't know about you. For instance, you might not like Facebook, the next person might not like Twitter, but you need to be on them. Get help unboxing and sorting beers, otherwise you are going to waste your life away. Trying to do it all solo takes place over a week or two for me and takes up huge chunks of my time. Who's going to wrangle sponsors? Approaching companies asking if they want to give you stuff for free is a special skill. Most people don't like giving stuff away. So it's just a case of approaching them, being nice, managing them, making sure that the prizes you're expecting do arrive. A head judge, we use Taz, he's amazing. It's his job to sort out all the beers into categories and tables and make sure everything's going smoothly on the day. And a head steward. Fraser is a head steward every year. He wrangles all the stewards for me, so I can just sit there entering numbers, job done. Every year organising the Welsh takes about 80 to 100 hours of my time. And that's my own personal time. That's gone down quite a bit since we've stopped using the relabelling of bottles approach, because now it's just the 10 plus hours it takes to get all the beers out of the boxes in the first place. And that's it. So anyone got any questions on running or starting a competition?
So if you are not using relabeling, how is it done now?
They introduced a new system for the American homebrew competition 2 years ago, where there's just an entry number and barcode on a label, and you just stick that on with tape to the bottle and you just leave that on. So it's no longer double-blinded. There is potentially the chance of collusion, but for that to happen, you have to know who's going to be judging your beers anyway, and for them to be able to recognise your beer. If you're talking at that level, it really doesn't matter, because you can just say mine's the West Veteran bottle in stouts, and it's going to be the only bloody one anyway. So it's like, if you don't trust your judges, they probably shouldn't be judging whether it's double-blinded or not. Any more?
Minimum number of judges, so if you had 100 entries, how many minimum judges would you need to do that in?
It depends on the number of sessions you're running it over, to be honest. We try and say an absolute maximum of 15 beers for a judge for a session. Ideally, we want it under 10 beers per judge per session. But the thing to remember is every time it takes 2 judges, not 1. Cool. Oh, yeah.
And how many judges are in one beer style? Or what's the recommended amount of the judges for one beer style if you have like 5 categories? for one category?
It depends on the number of entries for that. So I mean, if you've got 20 entries in a category, we'll probably put 2 pairs of judges on that. If you've only got 4 entries in a category or 6 entries in a category, you only need 1 pair of judges. So
you're still using pairs of judges, or
it's always at least 2 judges, one experienced, one the other can be experienced or a novice. But yeah, we never do a competition where it's just 1 judge, because then it's all just too subjective. And judges all have their faults. I mean, even the best of us do. Some people aren't at all sensitive to certain chemicals, whilst others are. If you've only got 1 judge, that's not fair on the entrant, because they might not be sensitive to an issue.
because I heard that like ideal amount of the judges for the category is not fair. It's like 3, 5, 7. Because you know, if you have 2 or you have 4 of them, it's like 2 for good beer, 2 for bad beer, and they can't decide. So better is to have like 3 of them or 5. You know, so it can like.
That's the role the head judge takes on. If there's an indecision at all on a table, then the head judge is approached for the deciding vote. If you've got more judges, by all means bung them on, because no one's going to get upset about having 3 or 4 feedback sheets for a beer instead of 2. Anyway, sorry, I've got to cut it short there because Andrew's about to come on. And what we'll do, if anyone's got any further questions about running a comp, I'm about for the rest of the day, so you can catch me then, okay? All right, thanks.